Today's stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hi, I'm Leonardo Fukinetti. Let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is to continue what we started yesterday, which is a waveform display. Let me show you what I have so far. I think I'm calling it waveform. And this is what it looks like. It is storing samples. Is it glitching? It seems like it's glitching in some places. So it's storing samples in a circular buffer and it's displaying the samples. Very nice. And the first order of business here is to fix a mistake that allows the drawing of the waveform to go below the bottom. So we know of this mistake, or at least I think it's a mistake. It's a fix me. We wrote that yesterday. Then we are going to look into the scaling of this thing. So yeah, let's maybe take notes. We have this fix me to fix. And then what we want to do next is look at the scaling, because I don't know, and we need to investigate this. I don't know if the waveform display should be linear, quadratic, or logarithmic. So there may be some scaling to do. And I suppose we should draw a line when there's silence. And what else? Oh, the Rectified Peaks. So the title of today's stream. And that's pretty much it. Let's look at the CPU use for this. It's not too bad. It's 0.1, which is perfectly acceptable. And there are ways to make this better, I think. Bo is here. Hey, Bo. How's it going? How are you feeling today? How is your website? Did you get it back online? Are you ready to share a link? And there's something else. Oh, you're skipping the coding train to watch this. Thanks. In fact, the coding train is a major influence on what I do over here. I don't watch him too much, but I loved his book, The Nature of Code, and processing, of course, and I just love his attitude. He's such a nice guy, or seems to be anyway. Dan Schiffman, by the way, is the person I'm talking about. So, yeah, and there's something else that I want to look into, which is the stuttering. And maybe you don't notice this, but when you notice it, you won't stop noticing it. And I noticed this even in other plugins. Like I was looking at the compressor in Logic, which I think has some nice visualizations. And for whatever reason, they hide it behind a selection. It's not the first thing you see when you open the plugin. But in any case, they also stutter something like this. And I'm not in love with this stuttering. And I think I know why it happens. So can you see it? Maybe the stream will not make this justice because it's only 25 frames per second while I see at 60. But the waveform kind of jumps around. It jitters a little bit. So we need to look into that. And I think I know what the reason is. I think it has to do with concurrency, because we are writing on the audio thread and we are reading in the user interface thread simultaneously. So the circular buffer is sort of shifting around as the drawing is happening. And I think that maybe the solution for that would be, well, I can think of several solutions. I'm not in love with any of them. A simple one would be to just copy the whole circular buffer for drawing. So before I start drawing, I make a copy. That way I freeze the circular buffer in time. Another option would be to, instead of accumulating samples into circular buffer and then drawing them, I could draw in a separate canvas. We learned how to use separate canvases. So we could draw on a separate canvas and then just slide the drawing. That could be complicated though, so we'll see. Maybe we'll just do what Logic does and not worry about it. Right, but let's start with this bug. I think the first thing we need to do is to make the bug happen. So let's try just that. I will go into my effects chain and I'll turn off my the display of my voice. I turned it off for recording, so now you don't see any waveforms. Now let's put a tone generator in. And then we start seeing the tone. I think I will have a very low frequency so I can sort of see the waveform. Nice. And I am going to put the pins so I only see the left channel. Or maybe not. I think instead I'm going to do a DC offset. So I don't want necessarily the waveforms to overlap. So now as I pull this up, you can see that it is sort of clipping on the top, but it's still drawing. And importantly, it is not going over. So you can see that the bottom one is not going over the top one. There is a ceiling, there is a limiter effectively on the drawing. When I go down, then you can see that these two waveforms are overlapping here, because when I go down, I'm not clipping at the bottom. That's the issue. That's what we need to solve. Maybe I can make the issue a little bit clearer if I draw hanging there, this guy. If I draw backgrounds for the waveforms. So let's do just that. Before I draw the waveform itself, I will draw a background for it. And this won't be awesome, but it will be okay. So I want it to start at 0. Well, but this shouldn't be 0 like that. It should be like this. They're both 0, but this is more descriptive. So I want it to start at 0 on the x-axis. On the y-axis, I want it to start there. Then the width, I want to be the width of the whole project. So effectively this. So maybe I will have something like and maybe I will call this guy's waveform width and height, but maybe not. I'm already namespacing them, so whatever. So instead of this, I will have width, and instead of that, I will have that. Oh, I already had that as a variable, and it was namespaced. Okay. So let's revert these changes. Okay. So now let's do X is that. And we have a bunch of these guys just floating around. How about we put them on the waveform namespace? X, Y, and then width and height. Height is here. Width I have to define. It will be that. And I can start using, this I can put here as well, because it doesn't depend on the channel. So I think that that's good. Let's maybe not do red, maybe let's do gray warm of 700. And over here, I want to draw this waveform and these coordinates. These dimensions, that color. Alrighty, I think I need a padding, right? I think I need a padding between the two. So let's have GFX waveform padding, space of 2 seems good. So now the height of the waveform is not this. I need to give the padding. I need to take in account the padding. So how do I do that? Well, I will have a waveform. So maybe let's put the padding at the top as well. So I will have padding, then waveform, then padding, then waveform, then padding. So how many paddings do I have? Well, I have the number of waveforms plus 1. The number of waveforms is the number of channels. So that's the number of paddings that I will have. So I will have I don't think I did the right computation here. I think that what I need to do is take the whole height of the window, subtract the padding, then that will leave me with the thing I selected, with the part I selected. So I can just divide by the number of channels, and that's going to give me the waveform plus the padding, right? If I divide by the number of channels, which in this case is 2, I will have one of these guys. But then if I subtract the padding again from that, I will have the height of the waveform alone. So all I gotta do is take the result of this division and subtract the padding. That's the height of my waveform. Great. Then the Y, to begin with, needs to be minus padding minus waveform. So let's have a variable that we call increment, and that will be padding plus height. Then this is where we start, and this is what we add. So to begin with, it will be at minus padding minus waveform, and it will add that, so it will get back to 0. That doesn't seem right, so I probably don't want to subtract the padding here. I just want to subtract the height of the track itself. Great. And then I think that will do it. Let's see. I think the best way to do that may be to go into Edit. Let's put that window there, full compile reset. And now we do have a background color, and we do have some padding around the whole thing. Great. And with a DC offset of 0, we can see that we can go up and then we clip at the top. There is an unfortunate side effect of having rounded corners on this box because it draws outside the rounded corner, but that's too much for me to care about right now. Then, so it does clip at the top exactly as it should, but it does not clip at the bottom. And now we can clearly see the issue that I'm talking about, or I guess more clearly see the issue that I'm talking about. So let's commit what we have so far and go back into the library to fix the mistake. Amazing that we got this first try. Hang on, I need to look at the Git history because I don't think I saw all the changes. Unable to load. Fun stuff. First time this happens to me, but whatever. I can just go into leafac, git show head. Okay. I wonder if there is a way for me to abstract this whole notion of essentially a grid. That's essentially what I'm doing. It's a grid. I wonder if there is a way for me to pull that out somehow. Right. So we know that the mistake is right here. And I think that the solution should be, instead of trying to compute directly the Y position and the height, ultimately that's what we need. We need the Y position and the height because those are the parameters we need to pass to the thing that is going to draw one part of the waveform. But instead of trying to compute that directly, I think we should compute the top and the bottom and then compute the height based on that. And I think that that will be the simpler way of doing this. So let's review what we wrote yesterday. We go into the slices. The slices are each one of these points in time. And then this seems correct. Then the slice maximum and minimum is just fetching data from the data structure, from the circular buffer. Then let's have a draw top, which essentially will be this. But I also want to have a draw bottom, and it will be similar to this, but it will not be quite the same. So I'm going to start at the midpoint, then I'm going to add the minimum between well, I actually want the maximum between that and -1 times half of the height. Yeah, so I start at the midpoint right in the middle, then I add, so I'll go to the bottom, I'll go towards the bottom. I'll take the maximum between the minimum in the slice and -1. This is not enough actually, because if I have a really huge DC offset, my minimum may be above 1. So I actually need to truncate these numbers both up and down. So let's do that. The maximum between and -1. And 1. Essentially, I want to limit. So do I have a function that will do this? Maybe I call it clip. No, so it doesn't exist. And I think it needs to exist because it's such a useful thing to have. So let's find a good place to put this. Hyperbolic functions. I want to find where I'm wrapping things because that's near. So I'll have a function called clip. And I will have a value, and I will have a minimum and a maximum, and then I will return the minimum maximum value Yeah, something like this I think will do. If I take the maximum between the value and the minimum between the result of that and the maximum, I will have clipped that number between the boundaries. But I also want to have a version of this where you give me a value, and if the minimum and the maximum are symmetric, then I want to pass that value only once. So I'll call this the limit, for the lack of a better name. I don't know. And that is going to be just calling clip with the value and limit and minus limit. And then let's write some tests for this. So I expect clip of 0 between -1 and 1 to be 0. And I expect 2 to have clipped to 1. I expect -2 to have been clipped to -1. And I think that's good enough. Naturally, we will need to register this test or to put it in the manifest. So I'll find map test, copy this line, and paste that there. Great, now we should be able to use this clip function over here. Clip, the slice, well, it depends. In this case, it's the maximum. In this case, it's the minimum. And the limit is the number 1. And that's a hard clipper for you all. It's an audio effect, really. And I think we did it. All right, so that's the top and bottom. Then the Y position is the top. And the height is the bottom minus the top. And there you go. Now I think that this will do the right thing. Let's open first the tests and look for clip, and it's passing. Now let's look at the new version of the waveform. Well, it is not looking good because it's not drawing anything. I may have forgotten to multiply by something. So this part is correct. Let's go to the bottom. And here I'm multiplying by height. So I think I'm missing that multiplication. Let's look at this again. So the top is the midpoint times half of the height, the bottom times half of the height. So that's already in coordinates that we should be able to use. There is another mistake. I forgot to say that some of the variables are local. So that's, yeah, we can start looking for those. I have draw top and bottom as local variables that are new local variables. And they appear right above draw Y. But still I don't see anything. So, but then are there stray variables? Doesn't seem like it. No. Well, we made these variables local, which is great, but it's not terribly good for visibility and debugging. So let's assign some of these variables to debug variables so we can see them. I'm interested in the height. I'll have the Y position as well. So debug Y, debug height. Just for good measure, I'll also have the top and bottom. So debug top and bottom. And height is negative. That doesn't seem too good. But the bottom should be a bigger value. And it's not. So I may have my coordinates upside down. My y midpoint I'll also want to look at that. So debug y midpoint. My y midpoint is positive. That's all right. Then half of the height is probably positive too. So I start with y midpoint, then I clip this value such that it's going to be between -1 and 1. And then I multiply by half of the height. So I start at the midpoint, and I'm going to multiply a number between -1 and 1 by half of the height. So if it's 1, it's going to go up here, or the other way around, because I'm subtracting. But if it is 1, it's going to subtract and get up there. If it's -1, it's going to go down here. So far, so good. So top should be, all right, this number, it is above the midpoint. It seems all right. Then the bottom is a smaller number. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Do I have the maximum and minimum reversed when I'm pushing things into the circular buffer? Because that could explain it. Nope, doesn't seem like it. I am taking the maximum and the minimum correctly. Yeah, that's a nasty bug. We'll have to get a cup of tea, because this is gonna be one of those. I could just reverse the top and bottom and I would have something, but it doesn't seem right to do that, because somewhere the logic is wrong. It's not the midpoint. The midpoint is all right. It's one of these guys. Let's look at the maximum and minimum. And I expect the maximum to be more than the minimum, to be bigger than. They're both 0? Ah, okay. Now they're different numbers. And I expect the maximum to be more than the minimum. And there is a DC offset, so it's going around like negative numbers. Still going to negative numbers? Now it's not getting anything? Very odd. Let's look at a snapshot of these values. So the maximum is bigger than the minimum. So that much makes sense. So that's not where the bug is. We are putting things into the circular buffers the right way. I guess I should just be adding, or maybe I should just be subtracting, right? Because if the number is positive, I want to go up. So I should be subtracting in both. Yeah. Oh yeah, I really like this symmetry. Start at the midpoint, then you subtract because you want the positive values to go up. And then you clip the maximum, multiply by half of the height. You clip the minimum, multiply by half of the height, same formula in both places, and then top should be bigger than the bottom because maximum is bigger than the minimum, I think. And then I subtract bottom from top, I have the height. And all of this is because the coordinate system has positive values going down. And I think that will do it. Let's reload. Oh no, still nothing. This is getting weirder and weirder. Let's put some debug variables here. Now they're the same number. That doesn't seem right. Because the maximum and the minimum are not the same number, are they? Oh boy. I thought that fixing this was going to take me 5 minutes and then I would have time to do all the other fun things like I mentioned, rectifying the waveform, and I'm going to spend the rest of the day being punched in the face by this freaking thing. Now the maximum and the minimum are just 0? That doesn't make sense. And why are these negative values? They should be positive and negative. Okay, just takes a little while. And at any point, the maximum should be bigger than the minimum. The maximum is bigger than the minimum because it's less negative in this case. Okay, so what do we do with the maximum and the minimum? We truncate, we multiply by half of the height. All of that seems right. The code is actually worse now that I fixed that plus, because now we just have the same value twice. And the values are very close to one another, which I'm not sure makes a lot of sense, but I'll take it. Especially because the frequency is so low. If I make the frequency higher, then these numbers should go further apart. And they do. Okay, I think I prefer to look at numbers like this. So this is 0.24 and that's minus 0.24. Hanging there. Do I have a bug on the clipper? I don't think I have a bug on the clipper. I don't have a bug on the clipper. These tests cover everything. Maybe I could have a bug here, but no, I'm just forwarding the variables. Oh, the minimum should be negative. The maximum should be positive. Maybe I should be testing this other version. I had a bug on the clipper. Would you look at that? And I guess I will have this one as well. So I'll have a test for that too. Just like that. Okay, let's look at the tests. They should be passing. Clipper is passing. Then full compile reset these guys. And then we have a waveform again. I had a bug on the clipper. Go figure. Then let's make this frequency low again so we can see the squiggly waveform, and then it is it's not clipping in the way I expected. Because when I go up top... Oh, no, that's no longer the case. Yeah, I kind of prefer it this way. Before it was kind of showing something. It was kind of showing a little line, and now it's not. It's just like going off of the grid. It's not drawing anything. And I think I prefer this because it doesn't give the impression that the thing is clipped. The waveform is clipped. It's the display that is clipped. Yikes, that was annoying. But we fixed it, so good news. It's working now. Do I have any other variables that I need to take care of? Nope, everything is all right. So let's review this carefully, because 2 bugs snuck in. The plus here, maybe I could call this, instead of top and bottom, I could call this maximum and minimum. No, I won't. Because I guess we are translating from the notion of values having magnitude into the notion of drawing. So top and bottom are good names for these guys. So we start at the midpoint, subtract half of the height, clipping the number just like that. And there you have it. Okay. We fixed the bug from yesterday. Great. What's up next? Scaling the waveform. That's interesting, but let's not. Let's draw a line when there is silence, because that should be easy. How do I make that happen? Well, I just stop this tone generator and I don't see anything. So I want to see something now. And if I have a DC offset, that's quite interesting, isn't it? You see the change, but you don't see the DC offset. So what I probably want to do is to come here and look at this, where I am computing the height. Because the problem is the height. The width is fixed, so the problem is the height. I probably want to take the maximum between that and at least 1 pixel. Let's draw at least 1 pixel. Now we have a line. And if I move the DC offset around, then we have a line. But the downside of having done this is that now we are back to the situation where the thing is sort of clipping. So how do we fix that? Well, it is sort of easy. And we could have something like this, but it gives you the wrong impression. It gives you the impression that the wave is being clipped. Well, it isn't. So let's do something else. We'll do, I guess, this line first. So this is what we had before, back to where we started. But we are going to do this based on a condition. We need to check if the minimum maximum gets complicated. We need to check if the maximum is less than 1 or if the minimum is greater than -1. I think I got this right, and if I did, it will look right. Probably I got it reversed. So let's try reversing this. Interesting, it's not doing the thing. It is always giving me a height of 1. Okay, let's get back here to the middle. Oh, and in that case, it doesn't do the right thing. So I had probably the logic right the first time, I think. Yeah, now we have a line. And as I go up, this line oh, and I need to check if this is too small. So if this is less than a pixel and one of these two conditions apply, then I will do that. So that's a long-handed way of doing maximum. I'm checking if the thing is below 1 pixel. In other words, am I about to not draw anything? And then I will check if my maximum is less than 1. Because if my maximum is more than 1, then it has clipped to the top, and I don't want to draw that. And if my minimum is greater than... I actually want to check both, don't I? No. This is gonna get freaking complicated again, isn't it? No, it's not, because I already clipped the value, so I don't have to think about those edge cases. Man. This is complicated. This is much more complicated than it seems. Or at least it is for me. Maybe my brain is fried or something. Happens. Definitely happens. I probably want to check both. Let's do full compile reset. It's still doing that. That's right. And now it's going up and not drawing that little line there. Awesome. This is what I wanted. I feel like there is a more straightforward way of representing this idea, though. Maybe not. I think that's good enough. It's doing what I want. It draws a line. It doesn't draw a line here, so probably there is a minus, a less than that should be a less than or equal, or something to that effect. Probably these guys, right? No. Whatever, I will not worry about this because this is literally 1 pixel off. And of course, it's a typical off by 1 mistake. So now it does look like the waveform is not drawing, but it is there. It's just that we don't get to see it, but it doesn't look like it's clipping. Perfect. Let's, oh, I already committed. Great. So what's up next? Rectified Peaks. Because I only have 15 minutes and I promised I would do Rectified Peaks. So that's what we are going to do now. Let's add an option to the drawing to do Rectified Peaks. And I think I will add these options over here. So I'll do waveform, draw. I'll do something like normal and rectified. Maybe I could do bipolar. I guess that's technically the better term. Yeah, I guess I'll do that. And I will add another option to this function. So I think I want to have a default option, which will be bipolar. But then, so far, this is going to break actually, but maybe let's have a type situation here. That's no longer going to break. And now we have a new variable, an optional one at that. But nothing should have broken. And something broke. Enumeration is undefined. Why is it undefined? Because I forgot to say .new, didn't I? That was that. Okay, so that's fixed. We can now go up and down, looking great. And then we need to look at the type. So most of this is going to be similar. I do need to get a maximum and a minimum on the length, and I will not need to compute the midpoint for the rectified, but it doesn't hurt to do that. And the offset also makes sense. The X makes sense. The computation of this makes sense. So it really boils down to this part, where I compute top, bottom, Y, and height. So now let's have a good old case here. We switch case. In case you are thinking about what is a switch case, it's a concept that comes from languages like C and C++, but it's just, I want to see what is the type. So if my type is equal to bipolar, then do all of that. And if the type is equal to rectified, then do some other things. Let's see if that works. I will just save this, so we should be seeing the same. Oh, I think I need to put something in the block. I cannot have an empty block like this. So I'll do a to-do here. And then we are back to a working stage. But if I come to the place where I draw and I tell it to draw rectified, then now it shouldn't draw anything. Great. And now let's compute these guys. So we will need to compute x, y, width, and height. Or actually, just height? No, just y and height. We need to compute y and height. And I guess I will do the same thing where I compute top and bottom first. So what do I do to compute the bottom? The bottom is always the height. So I don't have to compute it. Or maybe I can reassign this variable just for symmetry with the thing above. So this is just the height. The bottom is the height. The top, or maybe in this case, it actually makes more sense to not compute based on top and bottom. It makes more sense to compute the height directly. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to compute draw height. And the rectified version of this is I need to take the absolute value of the maximum, the absolute value of the minimum, and take the maximum between the two. This is going to give me the rectified value, but I do need to multiply this by height. That's the height, yeah. And then the y is just the height minus that. Yeah, let's give this a try. Full compile reset, and then we have a big wave there. That's not cool. Hanging there. Slices maximum and minimum? No, that should be slice maximum and minimum. These guys. Oh, and I do want to clip. So I think I will clip these guys outside, because I will need to have them here as well. Where am I getting the maximum and the minimum? There. So I could just clip right there, couldn't I? There is no reason for me not to. And then these clips can go away. And then over here, I don't need to clip again because they are already clipped. Right. Okay, we have something. Yep, this looks like rectified waveforms to me. And the frequency is very low, so you can sort of see the peaks. But as I do this, you can see like that. Looking good. How about I just put my microphone through this? And what does that look like? It looks like rectified waveforms. Great. I wonder why this is not drawing at the bottom, however. Why is this not drawing at the bottom? I think they are not drawing at the bottom, and I don't see the right-hand side channel because I forgot to add Y somewhere. Where did I forget that? Well, it's probably here where I compute the Y. And now we have, yeah, it's right at the bottom, and we have both channels done. And I think that this is looking good. I think we should call it a day. I think that we have rectified waveforms. I fulfilled the promise of the title of this stream. And maybe we could have 4 of these to show both of them at the same time. So we'll do that before we wrap up for real. But all of this is looking good. Now let's do the thing I just mentioned. we'll now have 4 of these visualizations. Or maybe we could have both one on top of the other. That could be fun. So let's do GFX A of a half. And I suppose I will need to reset this at the end, because I think it carries for the next drawing. I don't know. We'll see. So we'll have... I think it makes more sense to draw the rectified on top of the regular one. And then we'll have the regular one in blue and this one in green. And then, I was expecting something else. Oh, okay, we have 2 waveforms now. I think that the colors are not as salient as I would like, but I do need to reset the drawing because see, this doesn't look right. You can sort of see the alpha channel. Had lots of streams about this already. So I need to just set this back to Unity. Oh, and I do have something for opacity in the design system, so I'll use that. And now let's try this. Full compile reset. And now we don't, now that's right. But let's make the colors more salient by saying that they are 100 in terms of brightness. And now, oh God, that looks blue, all right, but this doesn't look green. Oh, because I have gray in there. And gray-blue is a color. And now we have something in blue and we have something in green, and these are terrible colors. I don't really like them that way. But it's all right. It's showing waveforms. I'm so happy. We probably want to scale this though. I think that the scaling is wrong. You want to take like 2-3 minutes to look at scaling? I can help myself. Yeah, look at the scaling of the waveform. Yep, let's look at that. And maybe the simplest way of looking at this is just putting some audio through this so we can look at the waveform in Reaper and over here at the same time. Yeah, let's do that. So I'll stop my microphone. And oh, I just thought of something else. Contour. Instead of drawing the bulk of the waveform, you may just want to draw the top of the waveform, just the contour at the top. And in that case, and that I think only applies for the rectified. No, it applies to both actually. You may want to just draw the contour, and that is a whole different logic that we need to write. That could be fun to write. Of course, what I'm thinking about is I want to be able to draw something that looks like this, where I have the rectified waveform being drawn and I have the contour being drawn. So I will need to have a way to compute this, to draw this guy, the contour. That will make the component better looking. Great. So let's put some audio in here. This will do. And then we can compare what we are drawing with what Reaper draws. You know what? It looks okay. So maybe it is linear. This doesn't look too bad. Looks very acceptable. And there is something to be said about the fact that this is like filled in, while this, you can sort of see the ups and downs. And in a previous iteration of this, we actually fixed this by just making the width a little bit thicker to fill in the gaps. But I'm not sure I love it. Because if your audio is low enough of a frequency, you can always make up the contour anyway. So I don't know if we want to fix that. Or maybe it's a parameter that you can pass. Could parameterize that. Oh, and something cool is happening. Every time I play, it zeroes out all the buffers, which is exactly what I wanted. Or maybe not, but it is a behavior. It's a nice behavior, I guess. If I wanted for that to not happen, I guess what I would need to do is and Bo says something interesting. That would be a good topic for just seeing on the stream. SVG graphics. Yeah, good point. Let me take note of this. SVG graphics or vector. Well, it's actually vector based. So yeah, we'll talk about SVG with Justin, but I am not sure that he will be interested in that kind of, or in implementing. Of course, he will be interested in talking about it, I think, but I don't think he will be interested in implementing anything that renders SVGs. In fact, we are sort of halfway there to drawing SVGs, or at least the simplest SVGs ourselves, because we do know we have a library function to draw Bezier curves. That's the hardest part. Then, of course, there are millions of shapes and properties in SVGs, and yeah, but the most basic things like to draw an icon, an SVG icon, we can. But you can always just PNG the thing and draw a bitmap. So, but graphics are vector-based. It doesn't say so here, but they are vector-based because all the primitives are vector-based. So why did we get into here? Because I was looking at the magic variable that would make that behavior change. So it will be under special variables, and it has something to do with a niche. And I believe that if I drop this here, I need to assign it to 1. Then the behavior of this effect is going to change. Full compile reset. And now as I jump around, it doesn't reset like that. So I don't know which behavior I prefer. I think I'll have it like this for now. And so let's wrap this up. John is here. Hello. It's great to have you here. Haven't seen you in a while, but I have, of course, watched your videos and listened to your podcasts, so it's not like we haven't been in touch, but not synchronously. And so yeah, enjoy your work. And thanks for stopping by. And yeah, line thickness and fills, that could be fun. And it is on the pipeline. I think it's in some preview version of Reaper. But I don't know. All right, so with that, it's time to say goodbye. Have a great weekend. On Monday, we'll be back and we are continuing this waveform thing. We'll do the contours. We will look into the stuttering. Yeah, and we probably will wrap up waveforms because I think we have done enough on the waveforms. But for now, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting me, for showing up on the chat, for going to PayPal and Patreon and showing your support. Thanks both for being here as always. I really appreciate your company. You're a great person. And do you have news on the Justin thing? I mean, I haven't heard back from him, and it would be nice to talk to him to like schedule things. So if you can put all of us in touch, that would be great. And with that, have a great weekend. Goodbye.